Hey neighbor, we're talking about one of the worst problems a fella can have in the garden today. One of the most aggravating things a person can have, blossoming rot. And I promise you, you're probably going to learn something new. Welcome to the Row by Row Gardening Show, the best dadgum gardening show on the internet, where we talk about gardening, a little bit of cooking, and growing your own food. Now sit back and enjoy. Well, here we are, May, in the middle of it.
I know, soon be half the year gone.
Crazy, ain't it?
It is crazy.
So we've got English peas, and man, at English peas, they are beautiful. Unfortunately, you don't remember what variety you planted.
I got it on a video, and I just ran out of time.
You know, the problem I have nowadays is remembering things too. If I don't write it down or make me a map and put behind my desk.
Well,
I got planted what? Well, I put markers up in my garden, which helps.
yeah, I'm getting really better about, I've got markers out there in my garden, a bag of, and writing it right then. If I don't do it right then.
You know, the people that keep these detailed garden journals, I'm envious. I wish I was that way, but I'm in the middle of the battle out there. The last thing I can do is sit down and write something down, but I am envious of that.
Yeah, I've been gathering ours and then gathering my mother's too.
Yep.
She's been a little under the weather. So I've been taking hers and I've been canning them with some potatoes. Our potatoes are getting ready. And we have ate potatoes and peas almost every meal for the last 2 weeks.
Oh, we love them new potatoes when they're coming in. We even had them for breakfast this morning.
Yeah, we did. Oh, it's been good. I love that time of year.
So let's talk about those jars just a minute, if I can get off those English peas. So this is something that you do, and folks, you talking about an easy fix for when you're time for supper.
I do it with green beans a lot. I've never done it with English peas.
But just dump this out, warm them up, that's it.
Throw a little butter or bacon grease in there.
Like she said, we've done it with green beans for years, and if I get a type for make something, you just reach it above the pantry, get that, open it up, throw it in a bowler, and you got a nice little, one meat and you got a meal right there. So, yeah, English peas is going to be, how many of these did you do?
I've done 10 so far, and I've got another pick, and I just got a phone with Mama. Poor Jean Paul's out there picking them.
So we've got green beans coming up. We planted for the second time. My first green beans got a heavy rain on them and didn't make it in my green blades, so I had to replant those. And they're coming up nice now. So we'll have green beans before long that you can put some more up. English peas, you've done a great job this year growing green beans, English peas, which is not always easy.
No. You got to hit it just right, especially this crop, before it gets too hot.
The one in the fall seems to be a little easier, as you think.
Yeah.
I love to eat them raw. They are delicious. But anyway, we've got to talk about blossoming rot today, but we've got to get through a couple of things first. One of them is blade of the week. Folks, we're switching it up just a little bit this week. Not only am I into knives, I'm also into axes and hatchets. This is a little knife. First time I seen this one was on a shelf in Lehman's in Ohio. So I'd ordered me one after I come back, and this is a small little hatchet. We're actually going camping this weekend. I may carry this right here because we're going to build a little fire. This is a Sweden-made Gransford Brook. I say Brook. I'm not sure it's Hook or Brook. Can you read that right there?
B-R-U-K.
It's Brook. Okay, Gransford Brook. If you're into axes, and you know, these things are pricey, folks, made in Sweden, but they are probably the best made hatchets and axes out there. And this is the little small one here. It fits your hand perfect right there. I keep these in my office. That's how proud I am. And I should be because they're expensive. Nice leather sheath there.
Are these the kind you got the grandbabies?
I got the grandbabies one similar to that. So I bought each one of my grandboys a little hatchet. I had promised one years back, and I bought them one for their birthday. Their birthdays are close together, and I bought them one apiece. Now, the littlest one, Ty wasn't quite old enough. I knew I had to go ahead and do both of them because one would be disappointed. Little Ty had an accident with his and cut his hand. So then I think his may be put up till he gets a little older. But these are nice little axes right here. If you got somebody in your family that's going to take care of it, now if they're not going to take care of it, don't get them something like this. But you got somebody that's going to take care of something and appreciates a good axe, this right here's a perfect gift, or maybe even a gift for yourself. That's what I have to do sometimes. But, all right, so moving on. In the garden, my corn's growing like crazy. I got sweet corn that
Did you see the zinnias growing in between the
so
corn?
this is what I was gonna do a little short. You know, they got the Three Sisters corn, where you grow, what's it, the beans? Squash, and I was gonna do the stepbrother. Stepbrother's the zinnia. So I got zinnias growing in my corn from last year to come back up. Sweet corn's looking wonderful. I'm 15 days from sweet corn to my Hickory King. My Hickory King's in another patch right beside it. It's looking probably better than the sweet corn is, but we're gonna have early sweet corn this year.
I know.
It's starting to silk out. So.
How's your blackberries?
Blackberries are wonderful.
Yeah, I think we're gonna have a good blackberry crop.
Yep. Everything's looking really good in the garden. I'm shooting the juice to a couple of things as we speak, injecting some juice in there too. Watermelon's looking good. Had a little bit of problems with some disease on your Tasty Bite cantaloupes, but I got out there yesterday afternoon and doctored those a little bit. So everything's good, looking good. So one of the biggest disappointments in the garden is blossom end rot. And if you don't know what blossom end rot is, and you've not gardened for very long, you will find out, because it's one of those things that hits just about everybody. Blossom end rot, not only, we always think about tomatoes, but it can hit other fruits as well. Any of you cucurbits, such as watermelons, can have blossom end rot. Cucumbers can possibly have blossom end rot. Peppers.
Squash.
Eggplants, squash, any of those. However, on the cucurbit side, such as your cucumbers, your squash, your watermelons, a lot of times it's misdiagnosed as poor pollination. They can look similar sometimes, but poor pollination normally rots right when the bloom comes off there. With blossom end rot, normally you'll make a fruit, but then it'll have a bad end on it a little later on. So it can very well happen. But it's more prominent, we think.
Is it bacterial or fungus?
Nope. It's
Strictly
a physiological problem.
Physiological.
Physiological problem.
So it can't spread to your
Nope.
next plant.
Nope. A lot of people think they misdiagnose as diseases. It can happen in peppers. We don't see it as much in peppers, and it can also happen in eggplants. We don't see it as much in eggplants.
So you don't have to pull up the plant.
In tomatoes, absolutely not. That's the worst thing people do is they get so frustrated early on because they got a couple crops. They got a couple tomatoes on their low-hanging fruit with blossom end rot, and they get so frustrated because they feel like they've had a failure. Most of the time, you can work your way out of it. So let's talk about what blossom end rot is, and then some things you can do to help not have that problem. That being said, I've been doing it a long time, and I have minimized my blossom end rot, but still we have a little bit every year, sometimes. Blossom end rot, in theory, is the inability for the plant to take up calcium and move it to the fruit. Is a short, easy definition of what blossom end rot is. During the critical stage. Okay, so calcium is an important nutrient to the plant. Probably besides nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, it's one of the most popular or most important nutrients to the plant, along with 2 or 3 more. So we know we got to have calcium. Now a lot of times you will have calcium available in your soil, the plant just can't take it up and move it. And there again, we're going to probably get into some of these wise tales, because a lot of these out here, every year you're going to see on the internet, you're going to see it on YouTube, you're going to see it on Facebook, TikTok. People giving advice on blossom end rot because it is such a devastating issue when people have. And about half the information that we see on there is wrong. Irritates me to no end, but I try to look past it. We have it on row by row every year.
Yeah.
Epsom salt. Put the Epsom salt on there. We have it all the time.
Put an egg in the hole.
Egg in the hole, Tums in the hole, all this kind of stuff. So let's move into what it is and what we're going to do about it. So it's the inability of the plant to move the calcium. So calcium has to be moved, as long as we're going to the fruit, which is what we're concerned about. Calcium has to be moved from the root to the fruit.
From the root to the fruit.
To the root to the fruit. It cannot be sprayed on the leaf and moved from the leaf to the fruit. So these these sprays out there that you see for blossom end rot, where you spray the foliage, will not work for blossom end rot.
I actually read that when you have this, you actually have enough calcium in the leaves.
Yeah, the calcium's a
It
problem.
just won't travel to the fruit.
Absolutely. And one thing about calcium, most people don't understand, it is an important nutrient to fight off diseases in the leaves. So if you do spray those leaves, that calcium can be absorbed by the leaf and work somewhat as a disease protectant for that leaf. So might not be healthy. I mean, it may be healthy for the plant for you to spray it with calcium. It's simply not going to do any good for blossom end rot because it cannot move it to the fruit. It's what we call localized systemic. It can only move very local in that leaf, and that's it. So that's the reason we don't recommend spraying that. The calcium is to build cell walls in your fruits, and it's also has another purpose of fighting off bad pathogens for your plant. So if your plant is stressed, it can help fight off some of those diseases with the leaf system there. So calcium has a couple of different roles within the plant's health. We're going to focus on the blossom end rot because that seems to be the worst part of it.
So is it due to low calcium in the soil?
It can be. So we can have not enough calcium in the soil, or we can have plenty of calcium in the soil, but we got to move that calcium up through the plant. So we got to have perfect conditions, really, or near perfect conditions. Now, the commercial farmers, don't think you're the only one that deals with calcium. The commercial farmers focus a lot on calcium, and for a couple of different things. They do it because they have very little blossom end rot because it's very important. They don't have it through freeway. But also, when it builds that real healthy cell wall, your fruit stores so much better. So they get way better shelf life in the grocery store when they got good calcium in that fruit because it stores much better and you got a thicker, healthier cell wall and it doesn't degrade. One thing that we have found out about onions is a late application of calcium nitrate late in the season will also help your onion stores. Same exact reason. It builds that cell wall in that onion. So it's important as far as being able to store that fruit, not only as for blossom end rot. So the question is, what do we do to not have blossom end rot? Well, we can do all the right things and still have a little bit of blossom end rot.
And if you do, just take that fruit off and keep going.
Keep moving on. Don't get frustrated about it. All right, so first thing we need to do is we got to have correct amount of water in the soil for the plant. If we got too much water, the plant's not going to take up water, and calcium is moved through the water in the plant. So if you've got calcium there, but your soil's waterlogged, not going to take it up.
Or if it's too dry.
Too dry, exact same thing. You can't take it up. So you can't move that calcium thing there. So we want adequate moisture, but not too much. Now, some of those things we can't control. If you have a lot of rain, you may have blossom end rot and you did everything perfectly. There's simply nothing you can do about that. That's the weather, that's gardening. But the things we can control, let's focus on that. Drip irrigation so that we can do consistent watering of the plant and the plant does not stress. Basically, what you don't want is that plant to stress in any form or fashion. And it keeps all that circulation running well through the plant. So we like to do calcium applications to make sure we got calcium in the soil. The two different things that we use is gypsum, which is a great calcium source that doesn't affect your pH. And we can sprinkle it around the plant. We make sure we do it all the way around the plant because if you just do it on one side, believe it or not, only that one side can take it up. And then you got a tomato plant that's got calcium on one side and not on another side.
When do you put this gypsum on?
Oh man, that's a good one there. A lot of people do it at planting, which I don't think is a bad idea. I think it's more important the first time you see bloom set to have it on there then. So I normally, sometimes I do it at planting, sometimes I don't, but I definitely do it at first sign of bloom set. I get calcium on the plant. If I'm using gypsum, simply take you a handful and I just walk down there and throw it on each side of the plant. You need to get it close to the plant. Don't worry about overdoing it. Don't worry about burning. You're not going to have any adverse effect on that. I just throw it so I get scatter around that plant on both sides. I do that at bloom set and I do it 2 weeks, therefore after that. Another product that we recommend using is calcium nitrate. Calcium nitrate is just what it sounds like. It's calcium and it's nitrate, which is nitrogen. Calcium nitrate will raise your pH a little bit, so it's a little bit of concern there. If you have a high pH, you might probably want to back off that. You don't want to use calcium nitrate unless you need the nitrogen part of the soil, in the soil, because if you use calcium nitrate and you put excess nitrogen on there, you can cause some problems. What we normally like to do is we like for our calcium nitrate to be part of our nitrogen or fertilizer program for these particular type plants. So calcium nitrate and land plaster or gypsum is our two nitrogen sources that we like to use. Now there's others out there. You can use some limes and things like that, but they will adjust your pH. So therefore, I don't normally like to use those just for trying to get calcium into the plant. Another problem, and most people didn't know this, but you ever seen tip burn on lettuce? Mm-hmm. That's from calcium deficiency. So a lot of plants can have calcium deficiencies. Even lettuces, that tip burn, with adequate amounts of calcium in the soil and a good healthy growing plant can counteract that just by not stressing out that plant and have the calcium available to the plant.
I was reading too, it said avoid deep cultivation once you start seeing fruit.
It stresses the plant. So anything that stresses the plant you want to stay away from. Now another thing that you may not have known is there's been some research that found that ammonia fertilizers can make blossom end rot worse.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so you remember ammonia nitrate, which is granted to use on, a lot of people use ammonia nitrate on corn. We don't use ammonia nitrate on anything but corn. I very seldom use it on corn because I'm not a big fan of ammonia nitrate. But be careful using ammonias on tomatoes or anything that could get blossom end rot, because that can make your problem worse. It actually competes with the calcium. Over-fertilization can make it worse. So you don't want to over-fertilize. The key is balance. pH needs to be balanced around 6.5.
Water.
You want your water balanced. You want all your nutrients balanced in there, because if you have too much of one nutrient, it can push the calcium to the side. Potassium is another one. We talk about our NPK. The K, the potassium, the last number on your fertilizer, if you got too much of that in your soil, that can almost displace or block the calcium from being absorbed into the plant. Ammonia, potassium, overloads of those can cause problems. And then magnesium. Magnesium competes with calcium too, so if you've got an overload of magnesium in your soil, it's going to push that calcium out and not get enough to get to the plant. And magnesium, folks, is magnesium sulfate, which is Epsom salt. That's the reason we hear it all the time. Put Epsom salt in there for your blossom end rot. Actually, it can make your problem worse. Magnesium sulfate, Epsom salt has zero effect on blossom end rot. So you can tell that know-it-all brother-in-law you got. He don't know what he's talking
You're going to have
about.
a lot of people call me
I
that.
don't care. Know-it-all brother-in-law.
I've used Epsom salts.
I've used Epsom salt.
And it works. I've never had blossom end rot.
It did not work. It had zero effect on that. Now, it does have an effect on the color of your leaf. So if you want to green your plant up, you can spray Epsom salt and it'll green your plant up. And there are times we have magnesium deficiencies in plants, although it's rare, that you can spray on there and correct that. Magnesium sulfate, you can put it at the root of the plant, but it's very well applied as a foliar too. But it has nothing to do with blossom end rot. Actually make your problem worse.
Another thing is make sure your soil is good, well drained. You got a bunch of organic matter.
Yeah, organic matter. So that's a good one you touched on there. So there's not a lot out there about organic matter on blossom end rot, but this is something that I found over my time that really helps. Copious amounts of good compost has an effect on blossom end rot. So this is what I do on my tomatoes. When I plant my tomatoes and they start growing, I come in there and I put me a good 2 inches of good topsoil all around my tomatoes. Then I heal on top of that, so I kind of layer it in there. And I applied my calcium and my fertilizers as well. I have found that a lot of good compost makes as much difference on blossom end rot as anything. I can't explain to you why. I think it has some relationship to the way it holds that calcium or holds those nutrients or makes them available to the plant. But I can tell you it makes a huge difference.
And another thing you can do is to mulch to keep that soil moist. not let it dry out so much.
Yeah, but I don't do a lot of that on my tomatoes.
No, you don't, but
No.
I did last year.
Yeah, especially in raised beds. I can see it happening in raised beds. I would be careful doing that in the ground, because what if you got a bunch of rain? That mulch is going to actually work against you. It's not going to let that soil dry out. But in a raised bed situation,
Yeah.
it could be perfect, because we know raised beds dry out real easy. So yeah, I can see that perfectly there. But I don't do mulching on my flat. But raised beds would work. So, cut back on your ammonia fertilizers. Use a good balance. Make sure your pH is in line. Don't overload any nutrient in your soil. Try to have correct amounts of balance of each one. Use nitrates fertilizers and maybe ureas as much as you can. Make sure you got good water system. You keep that plant non-stressed. It's the best thing you can do, and of course make sure you got the calcium available with calcium nitrate and gypsum. That is a good strategy you can do if you still have a little blossom end rot. Another thing too, let me mention this, cold soils can have an effect. So even if you do everything right, we have a cold spell come in, that cold soils is going to keep those calcium being absorbed into the roots and moved up. So even if you do everything right, you can have some weather effect to throw you off there. But try to do everything right and set yourself up for success there. And if you do have a little bit here and there, pick it off, throw it off. We normally see it worse on the very bottom crop. Once we move into the middle and top crop, we see very little blossom end rot.
Are there certain varieties that's more susceptible than others?
Oh, probably so, yeah. There's some of the newer varieties are, and it's not necessarily that they were bred for blossom end rot, but they were bred for better, thicker cell walls. So some of the newer varieties do a little bit better than some of the old heirloom varieties, because some of the thinner tomatoes there, naturally thinner tomatoes, like some of our heirlooms that we love to eat, they are maybe a little more susceptible than the newer varieties that have a normally thicker cell wall there. And some of these newer plants will have more vigor to them and they grow off better, so they can take nutrients up better. So it's not a direct correlation to blossom end rot resistance, but it's a combination of all the other things there that can make it better.
So we talked about Epsom salts. Did we talk about eggshells?
Oh, eggshells, Tums, all these things that you...
It's not going to hurt, but it's not going to...
All that know-it-all brother-in-law is telling you what to do. Eggshells is definitely a calcium source, but it could take a year, 2 years, 3 years to break down. Putting eggshells or putting an egg in the hole is not going to do you any good this year. It's going to take a lot of it. It's going to have to break down to be available to the plant, so you waste your time putting eggshells in that hole of your tomato plant.
What about milk?
Milk probably is going to be absorbed a lot quicker. Milk I could see working. I don't see the use of wasting good milk, but milk I could see being beneficial. Tums, I've seen people put Tums in the hole. Look here, you can go buy your Tums. Tums will absolutely do. It's a calcium source. You're a lot cheaper off to buy gypsum than you are Tums.
Take a lot of Tums.
Take a lot of Tums, and Tums can get expensive when you start putting them in the amount they need to be used. Will it work? Yes, but there's better ways.
What about sheetrock?
Sheetrock, yeah, gypsum would work. Yeah, anybody that's gotten, I've said this before, you know, if you're one of those kind of people that you want to save all kind of money, and you got a new construction project going on around your neighborhood, and you can get some scrap gypsum, crush it up, and use that. Same thing as pretty much as land plaster. That'll definitely work.
Okay.
Otherwise, just buy you a bag of land plaster and be done with it. All right, so maybe that helps clear up a little bit. Now you can use this to your defense when that know-it-all brother-in-law starts telling you how to control blossom end rot. You can say, well, Hoss said that wasn't right. And you could show him this video and we'll convince old know-it-all brother-in-law that his magnesium sulfate, his Epsom salt, or his eggshells in the dirt's not the way to go. All right. We've actually got a garden of the week that when I seen who it was from, I was like, man, look at there. So Jennifer and Darby sent us in pictures of their garden, and I am so proud of them. Jennifer used to work here some. She is a great friend of ours, her and Darby, and they love to fish like we do. But I want you to look at some of their pictures right here of their garden. This is some onions they got growing on there. Nice little raised bed.
Sapphire, and Sapphire.
Yep. And she's got her raised bed. Looks like she's growing her some lettuce there.
Some starfire.
Starfire lettuce.
Starfighter.
Jennifer, I'm not a huge fan of your mulch right there. I think it's going to take away from some of your lettuces there. It looks like they may need a little extra fertilizer there. But I love your raised bed. And look at her onions. Man, I know she's proud of those onions. Look at her. Wow. A lot of onions, Jennifer and Darby, and they got strawberries growing. Nice and blooming. It looks like it's in a container.
Yeah, it does.
Yep. And look at their potatoes. Man, they'll be ready to dig before long. I've gotten mine, started digging mine. So,
I know, we used to wait and wait and wait, and we're like, why are we waiting?
I'll tell you the reason why. My strategy, I ain't got as much energy as I used to have. So I take one row at a time. My goal is get one row a day. One row a day, and then the next day I'll get another row. I did get a little ahead of myself yesterday because I wanted to dig some of the Yukon Golds up. But that's my strategy.
Yeah.
All right.
Old goat.
Old goat is on the set here somewhere. If you find the old goat, put it in the comments below. Next week we'll do this week's winner. But last week's winner for finding the old goat is Lisa Allen. Lisa, send us your information to
support@growhouse.com.
You about shelled all them peas.
I know.
Lisa, we're going to send you a wonderful pair of Get Dirty socks. We just got a new shipment of these in.
Same kind?
Same kind. I love them because they don't show up dirt very well. There you go, Lisa. You'll be the talk of the town wearing them Get Dirty socks.
We're going to have peas again tonight. This is about how much I get off my 2 4x8 raised beans.
Yep. All right, we still got sweet potatoes plants that's for the next few weeks. I think for another 3 or 4 weeks we got sweet potato plants. If you hadn't already ordered your sweet potatoes.
I thought it was till the first week in June.
Well, it's
Okay.
3 or 4 weeks. Time getting away from you, ain't it?
It is.
And tomato and pepper plugs. Folks, this coming weekend is going to be the last week on tomato and pepper plugs. So if you hadn't got them, get them. We got a beautiful crop, and we're going to be winding it up after. We're going to be shipping out next Monday and Tuesday and maybe Wednesday just a little bit, but that's going to wind it up.
Tell people what a plug is in case they don't know.
It is a plant about this big, most of the time about this big, but it's a plug. The root ball is pretty small, but it's the way the commercial growers grow them, and that's the way we've been growing ours for a long time. You don't want these big old hawkish plants you buy at the big box store. These plugs have a lot more vigor. Get them in the ground, they'll grow like crazy. And I think that pretty much does it. We got the garden growing. I'm sure you got your garden growing. It's looking good. Weather's been pretty doggone good for us.
Somebody's got a birthday coming up.
Somebody's got a birthday coming up.
We're going to take him on a fishing trip.
Yep. That's my birthday, my fishing trip.
With my birthday boat.
Well, your birthday boat. So her birthday is in February the 14th, which is Valentine's Day. And we got her a new boat for her birthday. And she is so proud that we used it one time, but we had to wait a couple months on it. We had to order it. So it came in, so we're going to be able to use it this coming weekend on my birthday fishing trip. Your birthday present on my birthday.
Yeah.
And we both love to fish, so thank you for joining us. Hope you have a wonderful week as well. Now get out there and get those hands dirty.